The real heroes never give up. A weary German shepherd named Milo. Later a nameless stray roams the streets broken and desperate for food. When fate calls, he steps up not for fame, but because it's his duty. He's not just a dog, he is a protector, a hero. He answers the call to save a helpless baby. A story of courage, a reminder that true heroes don't always wear caps. Sometimes they have 4 legs. Will he refuse to give up at any stage? How far will a loyal dog go to answer the call of duty? The rain poured sideways, driven by strong wind through the bare trees along the empty highway. It was almost midnight on the edge of a quiet town, and the storm didn't seem to stop. The world was cold and wet. A German shepherd limped through the shadows of a narrow street near the woods, his ribs showing under his wet, matted fur. His movements were slow and weary, each step the product of days without food, weeks without shelter. The cold bit into his bones, but hunger drove him forward. Snout low, sniffing among overturned trash bins and spread-out wrappers. His name once had been Milo, but now he was nameless, just another stray. No one wanted another soul as he looked through the street for food. A weak sound floated beneath the roar of the rain. Barely audible, a high-pitched cry, soft and strained, froze his ears, flicking. There it was again. Not the voice of another dog, not a cat. It was human, a baby's cry. Milo's head turned toward the woods, to a dark patch of overgrowth by the trees. He ran toward it, splashing through puddles and pushing through wet brush until he reached the sound. Behind a log, partly hidden by branches and leaves, was a small white styrofoam box. Soaked and dirty, it shifted a little with the baby's movement inside. He approached gently. Sniffing, the scent hit him. Newborn skin milk, fear, and cold inside, barely covered by a thin towel. It was a baby girl. Her face was pale, her lips were blue, her tiny hands trembled, and her cries weakening. Something in Guardian snapped to life with no one around, no guidance, and no reason. He acted. He gripped the corner of the box gently with his teeth and began dragging it inch by inch. He pulled it out of the bushes, scraping it across wet earth, slipping in the mud. The rain stung his eyes, but he didn't stop. He tugged it all the way to the edge of the road, where headlights sometimes appeared in the distance before vanishing again into the storm. Then he stood as a guard. He barked at every car that passed. He barked with every ounce of strength left in his physically worn-down body. Loud, urgent pleading. The lights would slow sometimes, pause, but none stopped. The storm was too fierce. A barking dog in the middle of nowhere was just another danger to avoid. Still he barked, still he hoped. When his voice gave out, he cried. When no one came, he circled the box, curled his thin, shaking frame around the baby inside, and pressed his soaked body against the side of the foam to shield it from the wind. He lowered his head, ears twitching at every passing sound, eyes wide open, guarding. Through the night, a nameless dog, a nameless child, and a world that hadn't yet seen what love looked like when it had nothing left to lose that night, dragged on. The storm roared, but Guardian didn't move. Because some protectors are born, not trained, and some hearts, no matter how broken, never stop fighting to keep someone else alive. The storm had passed, leaving behind a soaked gray dawn. Clouds still came into view above, heavy and low, but the worst was over. Water spots were shining on the road, and leaves clung to every surface like nature itself had shuddered overnight. The world was wet and quiet, holding its breath after a night of chaos. Olivia Thompson, a soft-spoken woman in her early 50s, zipped up her raincoat and stepped out of her driveway, umbrella in one hand, purse in the other. She had worked the morning shift at the local diner for over 20 years, same route, same rhythm, but nothing about this morning was ordinary. As she neared the bend just before the main road, she noticed something odd in the distance near the edge of the highway. A figure lay motionless, curled, beside what looked like a plastic bin. Olivia squinted. A big dog soaked to the bone. At first she thought it was dead, but then it moved barely. She quickened, her heart pounding as she got closer, her breath caught. The German shepherd was curled tightly around a white styrofoam box, its sides dented and stained with mud. Paper scraps, wet leaves, and tiny footprints littered the area. The dog's ribs pushed visibly against his fur, and his body shivered uncontrollably, but he stayed in place. Head resting protectively against the box, Olivia's eyes widened. Was it food? A litter of puppies? No. Then she heard it, a soft, not clear, faint cry. Her stomach dropped. She rushed forward, kneeling beside the dog. He lifted his head weakly, looked into her eyes, and gave a quiet, broken bark like he was pleading. Olivia dropped her umbrella with trembling hands. She pulled the lid off the box. Inside lay a newborn. The baby girl was barely moving, her tiny lips parted in a weak breath. Her skin was ice cold, her face pale and her thin blanket soaked through, but she was alive. "Oh my God," Olivia whispered, her hand flying to her mouth. She fumbled for her phone, dialing 911 with fingers that could barely press the screen. "This is an emergency. I found a baby and a dog. I think he saved her." Within minutes, sirens echoed through the morning, and an ambulance skidded to a stop on the wet pavement, followed closely by a police cruiser. EMT rushed in, wrapping the infant in heated blankets and checking her vitals, whispering words Olivia couldn't hear. One of them, after glancing into the box, he sat beside the crib and gently looked up at Olivia with disbelief in his eyes. "You had no idea, did you?" he asked softly, his brow furrowed with concern. Olivia shook her head, feeling overwhelmed by the chaos unfolding around her, desperately trying to process the miracle that had just occurred. "This dog kept her warm all night?" he asked. Olivia nodded her head. "Yes, he pulled her out of the woods. He got her to the road. He stayed." The dog was still trembling. He was carefully lifted and wrapped in a thick rescue blanket. Olivia gently stroked his head. "You're a good boy," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "You're her angel." The baby girl was later stabilized and placed in intensive care. Doctors said her survival was a miracle. If she'd been found even an hour later, it might have been too late. They called her Nesser, meaning miracle. The dog, once nameless, now he was the Milo. News spread fast. The local paper ran the headline, "Stray dog pulls boxed baby into street, saves life in storm." By that evening, photos of the soaked dog and the baby wrapped in the medic's arms. Social media was flooded, and Twitter was full. Facebook groups shared the story with captions like, "Not all heroes wear capes. Some have paws. Guardian angel on 4 legs. He had no collar, no home, but kind heart." Everyone who now knew the story understood he was everything to baby. The hospital room was warm and filled with quiet beeping. Tiny Nesser lay curled in her incubator, wrapped in soft pink blankets, her chest rising and falling with steady rhythm. Nurses called her the miracle. The baby was thriving, and they weren't exaggerating. After just a few days of round-the-clock care, with warmth and nourishment, the baby showed clear signs of improvement. Nesser began to recover at a pace that surprised even the doctors. Visited Olivia every day, sitting beside her, singing soothing songs, whispering little promises. "You're safe now, sweet girl. We've got you." In a different wing of the facility at a nearby veterinary clinic, German Shepherd was receiving his own care. The vets found signs of old injuries, possibly from abuse, along with advanced malnutrition and a dangerous respiratory infection from the colonel. He was quiet during the exams, eyes watching everyone but never resisting. He only reacted when someone opened the door. His ears would perk up, like he was hoping to see her. After some time, both Nesser and Guardian were declared stable. Olivia was still shaken from the discovery, but deeply moved. She did something few would expect. She filed paperwork to give temporary care to both of them. Not forever, she told about her wish to the social worker. Just until the world makes sense again. Her request was approved. The first night she brought them home, something shifted. Nesser, bundled in her tiny crib near the living room window, stirred and fussed. Guardian patted over his frame slowly. Still thin but steady, and now he rested his head on the, for example. Nesser calmed instantly. It became their ritual. The Guardian followed during the day. He would lie beside her crib or curl beneath her stroller when she cried. He would lick her hand until she giggled or drifted back to sleep. When Olivia sat with Mir in her arms, Guardian would lie at their feet like a silent devotee. Olivia was folding laundry on the couch one morning when she heard a startling cry of laughter and turned. A little stuffed ball was being nudged by Guardian towards Nesser's crib with his nose. It bounced gently against the rail, and Nesser burst out laughing, her very first laugh. Olivia pressed a hand to her chest. "Tears welling up in you too," she whispered. "You're already a team." Then came the night that solidified that truth. It was almost 2:00 a.m. Olivia was deep in sleep. When Guardian suddenly bolted from his spot by the crib, he sniffed at Nesser, then let out a low, urgent bark. Nesser wasn't breathing. Guardian was barking louder at this time. He ran to Olivia's bedroom and jumped onto the bed, yanking at her blanket with his teeth, then barking again, faster, sharper. Olivia jolted away. "Guardian, what happened?" she asked, and followed him, heart hammering, to the crib. Nesser's face was red. Her lips were blue. Olivia didn't hesitate. She called 911. With trembling fingers, she began CPR as the dispatcher guided her paramedics. Arrived within minutes, Nesser had suffered an acute allergic reaction. Rare, sudden, and dangerous. Later at the hospital, a pediatrician approached Olivia with a look of grave honesty. "If you'd found her even 5 minutes later," shook his head, "she wouldn't have made it." Olivia sat beside Nesser's hospital bed, all night holding the baby's hand in one and the Guardian's paw in the other. "Hugh did it again," she whispered to him. "Saved her again." The dog didn't move, but his eyes never left the crib. He had no words. He didn't need them. He was a guardian not in name but in purpose, and Nesser was never alone in the community. The center was buzzing with energy. Balloons floated above booths lined with baked goods, handmade crafts, and colorful banners, hearts of hope for orphan children. At the center of it all stood a small fenced stage, and beside it, a tail gently wagging, tongue out in a relaxed pantsuit. Guardian wearing a special red vest embroidered with white letters, "Miracle." A dog had become a local legend, not just for saving baby Nesser from the storm or for alerting Olivia during her medical emergency, but for simply existing as living proof that love, loyalty, and instinct could thrive even after abandonment. Children lined up to take pictures with him. Some brought treats, others hugged Nesser. She is now nearly 1 year old, sat in Olivia's lap under a shaded canopy, giggling as the Guardian licked her fingers. The event was peaceful and joyful until it wasn't. Amid the music and laughter, Guardian suddenly stiffened his ears, shot forward, his nose lifted into the air, sniffing alert. He stood in the distance near the back entrance. A man moved awkwardly against the crowd flow, dressed in dark clothes that pulled low. He clutched something inside his jacket. His eyes darted left and right. Guardian growled. At first no one noticed, but when the man reached for the inner pocket and began moving toward the display table for auction items, Guardian snapped into action. He leapt over the small stage, fence barking loud, fast, and relentless. The crowd looked in surprise as the man flinched. Without hesitation, Guardian threw a fit. In an attempt to stop the man, he charged. As his hand came out with what looked like a little pistol, with a clatter and screaming, the weapon fell to the ground as the shepherd attacked and bit down on the man's forearm. Parents pushed their kids back when they erupted. Olivia grabbed Nesser and ducked. Behind a nearby table, the man tried to shake the Guardian off, but the dog held firm, barking fiercely, forcing him down to the pavement. Within seconds, 2 off-duty officers who had been attending the event ran in with weapons drawn and subdued the suspect. Police later confirmed, had a history of theft and violence incidents. His intent that day was unclear, but whatever it was, Guardian had stopped it before anyone could be hurt. The footage spread like wildfire. Local news anchors spoke with awe of the Guardian. Stray, who once shielded a baby in the storm, has done it again this time. Protecting an entire crowd is the headline. On the evening news read, "We are Hero, the dog who saved 2 lives." Guardian was once again hailed as a protector. Miracle, a symbol of everything pure and instinctively good. He didn't bask in the spotlight. He didn't know what the world was watching. After the chaos, he just wanted to return to Nesser's side, lie at her feet, and rest, because for Guardian, being a hero wasn't about headlines. It was about watching, protecting, and never letting anyone he loved face danger alone. The years passed gently, as if the storm that once brought them together had long since blown away, leaving only light behind. Olivia, once a woman who walked to work in quiet solitude, now walked through life with 2 companions who had changed everything she had. Officially, she had adopted Nesser that year. She turned to sign the papers with tears in her eyes. Guardian loyally sat near her feet as if he too understood the significance. Guardian, in turn, was no longer just a miracle dog. He was family. To honor the journey that began on a stormy night, Olivia launched the Nesser and Guardian project. a nonprofit that provided emergency aid and long-term support for abandoned children and stray animals. The mission was simple. By giving second chances to those whom the world had forgotten, the organization flourished. Volunteers poured in shelters, partnered fundraisers sold out, and everywhere you looked inside the rescue center, there were photos of Nessa or guardian of that muddy styrofoam box and the impossible bond that saved 2 lives. Then came the day of the Animal Bravery Honor Ceremony. It was held in the town square where Guardian stood on the small wooden stage, his coat glistening in the sun, his special medal hanging from a blue velvet ribbon around his neck. Olivia held Nessa in her arms as she approached the microphone. "He wasn't trained to save lives," she said. When no one else arrived or was observing, the voice broke just lifeless. "He did, and because of that, I have a daughter. Because of that, we are a family." As the crowd rose in applause, Nessa wriggled out of Olivia's arms, ran to Guardian, and threw her arms around his thick neck. "My puppy hero," she shouted. Grinning, the crowd laughed and clapped. Again, Guardian just sat there, eyes calm, tail wagging slowly, as if he already knew. Years later, on a spring afternoon, the backyard was filled with the sound of little paws and joyful yelps. 3 puppy Milos chased butterflies in each other beneath the wide oak tree. The Guardian lay in the grass, older now, muzzle graying but eyes warm as ever. Beside him lay Nessa, now 5, on her belly with a picture book, one hand gently resting on Guardian's back, the other turning pages. "You still love stories, huh?" she whispered, smiling. Guardian huffed softly, closing his eyes. And in that moment, peaceful, complete, there was no storm, no box, and no loneliness. Only the quiet legacy of a dog who had given everything and received everything in return. Some souls aren't taught how to love or protect. They are born knowing. Even if no one's watching. Even if the world has turned its back, because heroes sometimes come with 4 legs and a heart that never give up. He had no name, no collar, no home, but he had a heart, brave enough to save a baby and a soul, loyal enough to protect her for a lifetime. From the cold streets to the warmest place in a child's heart, Guardian reminded us that true heroes don't ask for recognition. They just show up again and again.